Talofa, everyone. My name is Merenita Setu, and welcome to our Pacific Talk podcast. This is the Who's Caring series under Money Follows the Person at the Pacific Center in Human Security. And today we have Mr. Faagata Tagoai today with us. Welcome, Mr. Tagoai.
Hello. Thank you for having me on this podcast today.
Thank you for coming. Mr. Faagata Tagoai is currently the Adult Protective Services Program Manager, or also the Caregiver Administrative Coordinator at Territorial Administration on Aging, better known as TAOA. So, Mr. Tagoai, just a quick question. Could you share a bit about your role as the Senior Adult Protective Services Program Manager?
Sure thing. So I am currently on my year and a half of my journey in TAOA as of this moment. And as a program manager for the Senior Adult Protective Services, we provide educational outreach material. We try to collaborate with different resources on island, local resources on island. And we just mainly provide outreach to our seniors and caregivers and anyone in particular that has seniors within their family or household. We have cases right now that deal with neglect and abuse, but mostly it's self-neglect that we've seen as a big issue here on island. And one of the main things that we try to resolve this issue with is to make sure that we host visitations with them, to go out to these households and make sure that they have someone to talk to, they have someone to collaborate with. I know that most of the time, family obligations, church obligations tend to take away family members from the household, so seniors are there by themselves. So as a senior protective adult services here in TAOA, we deal with several cases that range from financial exploitation to neglect, and we try to think of ways to resolve those issues to make sure that they're taken care of.
So as I see in your profile, aside from being the Senior Adult Protective Services Program Manager, you're also the Caregiver Coordinator for TAOA. So I just wanted to ask, what specific programs are available for, individuals interested in becoming a caregiver for, as a job or even as for family members?
Okay. So as a general rule, I try to point out the fact that even if you're unpaid or you are paid, you are a caregiver if you're already taking care of anybody within a family household. If you're providing them with the basic necessity that they can't provide themselves, especially seniors in the household, if their needs are groceries or just basically giving them a massage or anything that deals with making sure that their lifestyle or their environment is enhanced in a way they can't do it themselves. So yes, you are a caregiver in that capacity. As for TAOA, we try to enhance that capacity by providing certain resources that can make it easier for you to provide for your seniors. As far as my job as a caregiver coordinator, we have caregivers that have been certified in certain courses we've collaborated with the nursing program here in ASCC, and these caregivers are currently, listed, and they have been certified. They are not employed with TAOA, unfortunately, due to budgetary reasons, and mainly because these folks have their own lives to live, and most of the time the reason why they wanted to become certified caregivers was because they are taking care of their own family members at the time. But whenever we do get requests for caregivers, especially for families that have a working party within the household that can't provide basic care necessity, or they're time constraint because they either work in the morning and there's a need to have somebody at the house for a certain amount of hours, so they reach out to us, and we tend to act as the middleman to make sure that they're connecting with the caregiver that we have, and we facilitate having them meet, talk, discuss finances, discuss services provided, and whatever else that we can do in order to facilitate having them to, provide for the caregivers to provide care for the care recipient.
Okay, thank you. So I know not one situation, not every situation is the same. You take it as they go. So from your experiences, what have been the main challenges that you've seen amongst caregivers, unpaid caregivers that we would list as unpaid caregivers?
Okay. Well, this is going to be a tough one, because the reason why I would say it's a tough one, because it affects me personally at the moment as well, and I've seen numerous cases, and I've heard numerous stories about how our caregivers here on island, which is basically the younger folks that are stepping in to make sure that their senior relatives are taken care of. Main thing right now that most caregivers are facing, and this is certainly just my opinion, because this is kind of be a taboo issue within the Samoan community, is the fact that caregiver burnout is such a big thing with our community. And the reason why I say that's a taboo issue is because nobody wants to discuss the fact that, there's often a resistance, a certain resistance to providing care at a certain point. An example would mainly be, and this is just one example, maybe a household that has few siblings, and the other siblings have already left the island to go and progress their own future off island. And one sibling is left behind to take care of the senior, and they have to work with taking care of the seniors, having their own lives to live, work, church obligations, family obligations. Also their own family obligation if they have like a wife or a kid or something like that. So at certain times it'll seem like everybody else within their family is progressing, and they're going through life as they live it. Now that we're in a society where you can easily pick up a phone and see how your relatives are doing, and maybe you get pictures of your brother, your sister, your cousin enjoying life at a Disney resort, or going to the beach, or going somewhere else. Yet you're here and you're facing all these issues, and that's exactly what I mean by burnout. You tend to go through that episode, and then you have this certain resentment building up at the fact that you're not living your life, everybody else is doing their own thing. So yeah, that's just one example. There's other examples as well that deals with bringing people in that are not related to the family member, and so there's certain prejudices that flow along with that kind of dynamic. And yeah, so from my experience, caregiver burnout is a big thing. Not getting paid is such a big thing, because a lot of times you have to leave whatever job that you're working, full-time job, part-time job that you're working, in order to deal with an emergency at home if it involves a senior relative. So you're taking away from the capacity of providing for the senior by providing for the senior, right? So it's a sort of a lose-lose situation at that point. So there's mainly the reason why TAOA exists is to hopefully think up of and work with caregivers to think up of new ways to resolve those issues.
Thank you. So basically, what I've been able to take from what you just said is caregiving is a very demanding and a very sometimes thankless job. It depends on situations. depends on family, household, and all sorts of things, and just how it goes. So, kind of like if you were to see one of those caregivers, struggling, what would be like some advice that you would give them, just to kind of boost their morale and give them that, push in the right direction, that they're doing good?
Okay. Um, Basically, one thing is, and this is kind of this is, you know, in Samoa, the Samoan community, we always tend to help out. We're very much um, a giving, people. So it doesn't hurt to reach out to other family members or, neighbors, or reach out to church members, or it doesn't help if you're sitting there by yourselves dealing with the issue. So always try to use the resources that you have around you. And I don't mean to make that sound business-like, but mostly sometimes that's what it is. It's just trying to build a transaction with your neighbors, your church members, but building that relationship with them beforehand, already having an existing relationship with family members, that's going to help you out in the long run. A big thing that we tend to advise our caregivers on is to reach out to us. We have educational material that we can provide. We can sit you down and, go over some of the things that we've learned with the nursing program here on what we can do in order to, increase your knowledge or give you more of an advantage when you're providing care for your seniors. Certain skills that go along with that, like CPR, transferring caregivers, care recipients from certain positions to certain positions. If they're in a prone position on a bed, to transfer them to a wheelchair. Those kind of things that we go into the technical details with, and we try and to make sure that they're aware of certain policies that are already in place, so that way they know what to look out for. And then sometimes, and I tend to do this with my caregivers as well, is whenever we get any information, I tend to shoot it out straight to the ones that have already been certified, and hopefully they do get the information. And sometimes they don't respond back, but as long as I'm passing that information out to them, hopefully they're taking full advantage of it.
Okay. So you've mentioned that community, is a big part of methods or ways that other caregivers could benefit and boost their self morale. So are there any programs where, interested persons like myself would be able to get into caregiving, without the necessary, without the, what's it called, the background in caregiving?
Okay, like I said, you don't necessarily need to have a background in caregiving. You don't need to have a certificate to whatever course or training. If you're already providing care to a senior relative, providing care for a disabled a child, or any sort of care that you're providing for a family member, in an unpaid capacity, right now you're already a caregiver, and you're already doing what we're basically taught as a young age as a Samoan to do in order to provide for family members. As far as resources that we can provide, what we can do is, if you reach out to us, we can provide you with outreach material, educational material. We can sit you down and have you talk to our caregivers that have already been certified. We can link you up with the nursing program to see what they offer. Certain caregivers that have already been certified and certified from our program have already moved on to other professions that deal with caregiving. I believe in Hope House, they've hired at least 8 of our caregivers that have been certified within the past year and a half, and there are 2 of those caregivers that have been certified have already been hired at the hospital under the capacity of working as a CNA. So the demand for caregiving is out there. But again, you don't need a certificate or anything of that nature to say that you're already a caregiver. But again, we're working with certain resources that we have on island that can be able to move forward in making sure that our caregivers are given the opportunity to become paid caregivers in the future.
For the caregiving program itself, when you guys do have courses available for interested personnel, how can someone know that these courses are being offered? Like, is it posted online? Is it public knowledge, or is it like a walk-in process?
So as of right now, due to I really want to. This is basically based on current policies that are in the works at this moment. As of right now, any courses that we offer to caregivers are in a holding pattern, basically because there's just budgetary restrictions that are being that are being in place, are currently in place. And I believe this, like with one door closes, another door always opens. So we're working with this restriction, and we're trying to make sure that whatever funding that we do have available will be aimed towards to making sure that we provide to caregivers the absolute necessity that they need. So we're thinking of new ways that can provide support to caregivers. Like we're moving into making sure that we're seeing if we could provide supplies, like maybe big equipments like wheelchairs, beds. We're hopefully gonna try to see if we can work with certain other resources here on island that can offer payment to caregivers while they're providing care for their family members. So that hopefully works out well to the capacity of whatever restrictions that we have currently in place. But as far as a course to providing for caregivers to be certified, that's currently in the works right now. And to also answer your question of where we can find more information, we are also working on that as well. But what we tend to do whenever we do pass out outreach materials is we have visitations. We go out to visit seniors that are already been registered in our in TAOA. So whenever we do visitations with them, we provide educational counseling on nutrition, caregiving, any other resources that they might need. And if they have any further concerns or questions, we bring them back to the office and we'll reach out to them later on to resolve those issues.
So aside from ACC that you've mentioned prior, being another organization that you guys do partner with in caregiving, are there any other departments or organizations that you guys collaborate with?
Okay, yeah. So we collaborated with the nursing program, not only here in ACC, but the nursing program that's also, well, not the nursing program, but the nursing department over at the Department of Health. I've actually discussed cases with nurses that have gone out with our team to also provide their own medical expertise once they're out there in the field. So my team goes, the TAOA team goes out to either assess the situation on the Alternative Protective Services viewpoint, the Congregate Hot Meal viewpoint. That's the program that we offer over at TAOA. But then the nursing program or the nursing department liaison, they go out and they make sure that they're taking their vitals, they're looking over their health checks, reminding them of their medication, any capacity that deals with medical information. they are there just strictly for that purpose. And hopefully they collaborate that information, they come back, and we, put it in the data, and we make sure that we inform the necessary relevant people in order to make sure any other policies to move forward in providing care for our seniors is given priority. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we always try to look into the future, and how we could enhance what we already have at the moment. So kind of like the question would be, what are some future goals or projects that you guys currently have or like planning to look towards, in terms of supporting our caregivers, both unpaid and paid, as well as, our senior citizens who do not have access to caregiving and other organizational support?
Okay. Well, as I had mentioned, right now we're exploring options on using the funds that are available for us to see if we could actually provide supplies to our care recipients, and to provide for the caregivers, so that way there's a less financial burden for caregivers to go out and look for these materials that they desperately need for their care recipients or their senior relatives. So that's one option that we're looking towards to. Another future program, another potential program that we're going to be looking forward to is collaborating with our Medicaid side, or Medicaid brothers and sisters here on island. There is, and I want to reference a program that was in Hawaii as of last year. Let me just grab the name of that program here off my phone. It is called the Kapuna Caregivers Program. And basically what this offers is that it's a Medicaid program that offers unpaid employed caregivers about $300, $350 per week, to provide and, whatever necessities that they need in order to provide for their senior relative or anybody within that capacity that they needs caregivers. So working with the Medicare program would hopefully, or Medicaid program, would hopefully resolve that issue, or bring up more in order to build upon that program. We also want to reach out to our non-private organizations, Hope House, to see what we can do in order to facilitate more, in order to for them to provide and enhance their care for their so because we have registered seniors that are in Hope House, so we want to make sure that those seniors as well are being taken care of, and they have the necessary supplies and materials that's needed in order for them to, enhance their lifestyle.
Oh, so I see you and your team are very busy with, trying to find programs for all our caregivers and our senior citizens. So lastly, I just want to ask, is there anything else you would like to share with our audience, on the importance of caregiving, any common misconceptions, and kind of the overall senior protection within our community and our territory?
So I just wanted to share three things. It's one of the three things, but I'll probably build upon that afterwards. So it's very important that we need to create new policies that work with taking care of our caregivers as of this moment. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the CARE Act, which is, again, let me just pull up my phone here real quick. Okay, so for lack of a better word, CARE Act really is a legislation or policies that were put in place so that way hospitals all across the world, all across America, are identifying certain people that can be able to take care of those that need care once they leave a medical facility. You know, once you leave a medical facility, there has to be a continued care from that medical facility to the house. So it's better that the hospital realizes this and identifies it and puts it in record that this is the person that needs to that's going to be taking over from the work of nurses and doctors, and hopefully they can hopefully they can collaborate with nurses and doctors in order to provide the same type of care in a household environment. So we need those type of policies, and we need more policies like that that identifies how caregivers are how caregivers can provide more for their care recipients, and it that only comes about if we go out and talk to our representatives, talk to our senators about it. These are issues that are happening here on island. We have family members that are not getting enough food, getting enough supplies, getting enough resources to their household, because one main fact is that in today's world, because of all the technological and medical advances, people are tending to live longer. So that means that caregivers for seniors are increasing by the moment, and that means that there's going to be more resources, more supplies that needs to go into providing care for our seniors. So having them getting paid while providing for that care is excellent. That's a main thing that we need to provide. And I can give you almost about 90% of anybody that does come into our office and ask about caregivers and how they can provide to their seniors or their family members. They always ask the question is, are these caregivers paid? Are we going to pay them out of pocket? Or you guys pay them? Are they employed under the TAOA program? Unfortunately, they're not employed under, but they always, surmise that, or they wish that there was a program that could offer that resolution for them, because that would make life so easier for them. Another thing is that you also need to build more policies within a workplace. So there are certain things that happen at home that you can never, there's always unexpected things that happen here on island. And, in the Samoan community, as a philanthropic community, we tend to give a lot. And you've seen that, you've experienced that a lot. Fa'alavilawis and all that stuff that tends to come up. So there's always the need to make sure that we are going out and taking care. But also, there's also emergencies that happen within a family household, especially with seniors that might need to go to an appointment, or a senior that might need to, or a senior that has dialysis that might need to go to their dialysis appointment, or seniors that are being taken care of in the household, or they don't have anybody at the household. So, in a workplace environment, it tends to be frustrating for the employers if they're looking out and they're seeing their employees leave like 2-3 hours in the day just to go and take care of a family emergency. So, building upon that to make sure that employers are more well versed in the fact that there are issues that happen at home, and you can't really do 110% at your workplace area if you're already, if 110%, if about 70% of that 110% is being diverted to worrying about your family member at home. So building those policies within the workplace area hopefully would resolve some of those issues, and it collaborates the employer and the employee to make sure that they're having a discussion on how to better the employer's business or employer's work area, and then hopefully secures the employee's work, a job, occupation, so that way they're not losing it based on the fact that there's unavoidable emergencies that they need to take care of. And then lastly, and this is a big thing within anything that deals with government and providing care, especially if you're asking government to provide care, is budgetary restrictions. And we've seen that so prevalent here and during this time and era. And, I don't want to mention anything about what's going on with the federal government. I don't want to mention anything about the local government, but I can definitely tell you that anything that deals with government-wise, budgetary restrictions is always, or budgetary financial planning is always going to be a big step in order to. So in order for us to gain more interest, or in order for us to get a step ahead, get a foothold in making sure that we're pushing these programs, getting more money for these programs, getting more support for these programs, we ask all the caregivers that are listening in on this podcast, share the news amongst your colleagues, everybody, to, talk to your senators, talk to your representatives, talk to your leaders, your church, make sure that the interest in providing for caregivers is out there, and share your stories with them. Make sure that they understand that the struggle of working a full-time job, but also providing a full-time care for senior relatives or family members at home. It is a common theme here on island, and it often it's often drowned out by the fact that we tend to, again, we're a very giving people, but we're also very prideful people, and I hate to say that about my own people, but we're very prideful. We tend not to we tend to give, we love to give, but we tend not to ask for help. It's a big thing amongst us, but in order for certain things to move ahead, we need to go out there and talk about these issues. We need to ask for help, let them know that these are struggles that were happening here on island. And the next time you look at your senior relative, your family member that's currently struggling, that is the main point of why you're providing this care. So let's get out there and make sure that, hey, TAOA is one of the many departments here on island that is willing to help out, but we just need for the leaders to understand that we can't operate any of these programs, we can't move forward with any of these projects if we're not giving the priority or the funding to do so. So again, to everyone that's listening on here, clients, registered clients, paid, unpaid caregivers, seniors, anybody that that has a stake in the future of caregiving, please, make sure that you're telling your story, and voicing your and just enhancing your voice to make sure that caregiving here on island is a big must and should be a big must for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Tagoai, for that, for sharing your expertise and all these things that you've seen being the Senior Adult Protective Services Program Manager, as well as the Caregiving Coordination. Caregiving is definitely is present within all our lives, whether we know it or not. It is a huge job, whether it is paid or unpaid. It is something that is happening locally, and we see the struggle, we hear you, and we hope all those, as you mentioned, who have a stake in making a change for our caregivers is listening, and they're willing to help us out, help push the message, that all our caregivers, our senior citizens, basically the future of American Samoa is in their hands. So we just want to thank you for coming on to share your message. So for our listeners, if you're interested to learn more about what we do here at the Pacific Center of Human Security or our Money Follows the Person program, visit our website at pchs.amsamoa.edu, or follow our Facebook page at Pacific Center Human Security, as well as any programs with TAOA. You guys can call directly the TAOA line and ask for Mr. Faagata Tagoai for any caregiving or senior citizen related issues. We're here for you and we hear you. Thank you so much for listening in.